He lost everything then. His wife revealed she'd been secretly earning on YouTube for 10 years. He was the man everyone admired, hardworking, dependable, the kind of husband who never let his family go without. But when David lost everything, his job, his savings, his pride, he didn't expect the person who would rescue him was the same woman who'd stood beside him in silence for 3 decades. One evening, his wife walked into the room, held out her laptop, and revealed a secret she'd kept for 10 years. What he saw on that screen didn't just save their home, it saved his soul. Stick around, because this story of hidden strength, modern love, and YouTube redemption will warm your heart and blow your mind. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss another story that just might change your life. David Johnson had lived a life that made his father proud. He never took shortcuts, never asked for handouts, and never stopped working to build something solid for his family. A 28-year veteran engineer at a mid-size automotive firm in Detroit, David was known for showing up early, staying late, and mentoring younger employees. His colleagues called him Mr. Reliable. At home, he was Big Dave, the anchor of a modest but happy household. He and his wife Brenda had been married for 30 years. They raised 2 beautiful children, now grown and out on their own. Their life wasn't flashy, but it was stable. They had a paid-off minivan, a tidy brick home, and Sunday dinners with cornbread, collard greens, and plenty of laughter. But in late 2022, the ground shifted. Without warning, the company downsized due to a merger. David was laid off with a handshake, a letter, and 2 months of severance pay. It felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. At first, he tried to remain calm. He told Brenda not to worry, that something better would come along. He polished his resume, bought a new blazer from the thrift store, and started knocking on doors. But the economy was rough, and so was the job market, especially for a 56-year-old black man in a field that now favored tech-savvy 20-somethings. Week after week, rejection emails filled his inbox. Job interviews turned into silent ghosts. And as bills began to stack up on the kitchen counter, the weight on David's shoulders grew unbearable. Still, he said nothing. He pretended he had it under control. He'd get dressed each morning and go out like he had interviews, just to keep Brenda from worrying. He even packed lunches she'd made him, only to sit at the park alone, trying not to break. David was a man raised to carry pain quietly, to cry in private, to solve problems before speaking them aloud. But behind his silence was a growing storm. Their savings were nearly gone. The mortgage was due in 3 weeks. He didn't want Brenda to know how close they were to losing it. What David didn't know was that Brenda already knew everything. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the shadows under his eyes, the weight he carried alone, and she had already made up her mind. It was time to reveal the secret she'd kept hidden for a decade. Brenda Johnson was the kind of woman who never asked for much. Quiet, strong, and deeply intuitive. She had spent most of her adult life as a homemaker. While David provided financially, she provided emotionally and spiritually. She was the glue of the family, the one who remembered birthdays, kept photo albums, prayed over the dinner table, and knew exactly how to lift everyone's spirits when things got tough. But Brenda had dreams too. Dreams that didn't fit into casseroles or tidy Sunday routines. 10 years ago, something inside her began to shift. The kids were off at college. David was working long hours. She had more time on her hands, and though she loved her role as a wife and mother, she needed something of her own. So one day, after watching a young woman teach how to fry catfish on YouTube, Brenda thought, I could do that. She grabbed her phone, propped it up against a flour jar, and hit record. Her first video was simple: how to make buttermilk biscuits like Grandma did. No face, just her hands, her voice, and her kitchen. She uploaded it and forgot about it. A week later, she checked. It had 148 views, then 300, then 900. She was stunned. Brenda didn't tell anyone, not even David. She didn't want to make it a thing until she understood what she was doing. So she watched tutorials on thumbnails, titles, and search optimization. She joined Facebook groups for Black women creators. She learned how to read analytics and talk to the camera. In year 1, she made $87 total. In year 2, she made $289. By year 5, she was earning around $2,500 a month through ad revenue and brand collabs. Brenda had built a community, mainly women her age, who called her Auntie B. They came for the recipes, but they stayed for her warmth, her stories, and her honesty. She invested every dollar back into the channel. New camera, ring light, editing software. She never touched a dime for herself. Instead, she created a second bank account, quietly, secretly. It wasn't because she didn't trust David, it was because she wanted to surprise him one day, maybe when they retired, maybe when they celebrated their 35th anniversary. She'd say, look what I built. But now, things were different. David was unraveling. The sparkle in his eyes had dimmed, and for all his strength, he was folding beneath a pressure no man should carry alone. Brenda realized this wasn't the time for surprise. This was the time for saving. And so, with her heart racing and hands trembling, she made up her mind. Tomorrow night, she would show him the truth. The truth that the woman he married had become a quiet millionaire on YouTube. It was a Wednesday night that felt heavier than usual. Rain tapped softly on the window pane, and the living room was lit only by the soft glow of a table lamp. David had returned from another failed interview. His suit jacket hung limply over the chair, and he didn't say much as he dropped his keys in the bowl by the door. He sat in silence, staring at the blank TV screen. Brenda brought him a warm cup of tea, but he barely touched it. His face showed the wear of months of defeat. "I don't know what else to do." "Brenda," he finally whispered, his voice cracking. "I gave everything to that company. I did everything right. And now look at us. I can't even keep the lights on." Brenda sat beside him and gently took his hand. "Baby, you haven't failed. But maybe, it's time I tell you something. Something I should have told you long ago." He turned to her, puzzled. She stood up, left the room quietly, and returned with her laptop. "Just watch," she said, opening YouTube and clicking on her channel. At first, David was confused. A playlist of cooking videos filled the screen: soul food, banana pudding, smothered pork chops, cornbread stuffing. Then he saw the name, Miss B's Kitchen. And the view count, 2.7 million, 3.9 million, 5.2 million, the subscriber count, 384,000. The monetization dashboard over $12,000 this month. Brand emails, partnerships, fan letters, cookbook offers. David blinked, leaned forward, then back. Again, he looked at Brenda, whose eyes were nervous but calm. "You did all this?" he asked, barely above a whisper. She nodded slowly. 10 years ago, I just wanted a hobby. Then it grew. I kept it quiet. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I didn't want to hurt your pride. You've always been our provider. David, I didn't want to take that away." Tears filled his eyes. But not from anger, from awe, in the middle of his darkness. She had been the quiet flame that refused to go out. "You've been saving us," he said, voice trembling. She squeezed his hand. "We've always saved each other, haven't we?" That night, David didn't sleep much. He lay awake beside her, watching her softly breathe, wondering how he ever got so lucky to marry a woman like Brenda Johnson. After the reveal, their lives didn't change overnight, but something much more important did. Their energy shifted. The silence in the house was replaced with purpose. The heaviness on David's shoulders lightened, not because their financial problems vanished, but because he was no longer carrying them alone. Brenda invited him into her world. She showed him how she films her videos, how the lighting had to be warm, and the frame had to show just enough of the plate to make people hungry. She taught him about editing, about the rhythm of cutting between stories and simmering pots. David helped her reorganize the kitchen for efficiency, labeling containers, creating storage for spices, and upgrading the pantry like a production studio. One day, Brenda said, "Why don't you appear in the next video?" David was hesitant. "Nobody wants to see me on camera." She grinned. "Oh baby, you'd be surprised. That video my husband tries, my fried chicken recipe, for the first time became her most viewed upload in 3 days. Fans fell in love with their chemistry. Comment sections flooded with messages. "This is what black love looks like. Y'all gave me hope after my divorce. Mr. B is so wholesome, let him do the taste tests every week." David started doing more than taste tests. He began sharing short stories from his youth during Sunday uploads, lessons from his late father, how he fixed his first car, even how he used to walk 3 miles for his first job at age 15. These stories became their signature, Soul Food Sundays, with Miss B and Mr. B. Soon, a media agency reached out to feature their channel on a special about successful black couples in media. That spotlight brought more subscribers, but even more, it gave David a new sense of purpose. He began mentoring other men, his age men, who had been laid off, divorced, or simply lost. Through virtual meets and a small Facebook group called New Roads After 50, he helped others believe in second chances. Brenda's YouTube became a family business. Their son helped automate uploads. Their daughter designed new merch, aprons and mugs that Reed built from scratch, and husband of a YouTuber. Yes, I washed dishes too. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were thriving on their own terms. And every night, before bed, David would look over at Brenda and say the same thing with a soft smile. "I still can't believe you were out here getting YouTube money behind my back." To which Brenda would laugh, kiss his forehead, and say, "You always said I could do anything, right? I just took your word for it." A year after the night Brenda revealed her secret. The Johnsons were living a life neither of them could have imagined, because it was built not on wealth alone, but on trust rediscovered, purpose redefined, and love reborn. Brenda's YouTube channel hit 1 million subscribers on a warm September morning. She was frying green tomatoes on a live stream when the count ticked over. David was behind the camera, reading the chat. Tears filled Brenda's eyes as viewers flooded the comments with congratulations, heart emojis, and fire symbols. "We were here when she had 2 OK. She deserves every blessing. When is the cookbook dropping, Queen?" That moment marked not just her growth as a creator, but the beginning of a new legacy. But the cookbook came next. Published by a major black-owned press. From My Kitchen to Yours, Soul Food with Miss B, sold over 100,000 copies in the first 3 months. Brenda did book signings in Detroit, Atlanta, and Houston. Women came with tears in their eyes, telling her how she inspired them to start their own channels, businesses, and lives over 40. Meanwhile, David's mentorship group had grown into a full nonprofit. He called it Second Wind Society, a safe space for men over 45 to rebuild their lives after loss. His quiet wisdom, paired with Brenda's fiery resilience, made them an unstoppable force. They were invited to speak at a TEDx event titled, Rebuilding. After the breakdown, how one couple turned secret struggles into public success. On stage, David said something that left the crowd silent. I lost my job, but I found my calling. I lost my pride, but I found my partner in a brand new way. And I lost my path, but thanks to my wife, I found a better one. Brenda smiled at him, reached for his hand, and added, behind every strong man doesn't have to be a silent woman. Sometimes she's building an empire. In the next room, after their talk, the video went viral. Young couples, single moms, aging fathers, people from all walks of life, found hope in the Johnsons' journey. Even Oprah's team reached out for an interview. Their story was featured in Essence, Ebony, and even Forbes, under the headline, She Was Just a Housewife, until she became a millionaire on YouTube and saved her husband's life. But even with all the attention, the Johnsons stayed grounded. They still cooked dinner together every night. They still prayed over their meals, still walked hand in hand to the local farmers market on weekends. Brenda always said, fame is fun, but peace is priceless. One evening, while prepping a Thanksgiving video, David looked at her and said, You saved me. You know that. Brenda didn't even flinch. I know, she said softly, but I didn't just save you, I saved us. Because I wasn't going to let this family sink while I had a paddle in my hand. And maybe that's the real lesson here, that sometimes, love doesn't show up with grand speeches or perfect timing. Sometimes it shows up with a camera phone, a slow Wi-Fi connection, and a dream whispered in secret. In a world where titles define worth and age limits opportunity, one woman dared to dream quietly until her moment came to speak loudly. Brenda Johnson didn't just build a channel. She built a bridge, one that carried her family from desperation to destiny. So, if you're watching this wondering if your story's already been written, think again. Whether you're 25 or 65, married or alone, jobless or successful, your best chapter might be the one you haven't even opened yet.